This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
And we know that you're big into charity, and in my research, I found out that you and your brother Nicholas run the nonprofit organization Drops Fill Buckets. Can you share with our listeners all about that organization?
Sure, man. I think the idea of Drops Fill Buckets, when it first started, it was just, you got all these folks sort of, around the world who, you say you really want to do good, and people, I mean, we really believe in sort of the inherent goodness in everyone, that we all kind of want to help. But I think, my brother really kind of came up with the idea. He's my little brother's an amazing guy. He's an All-American quarterback in high school. He played football and basketball at Princeton. And, now he's this huge, he's a cancer surgeon out in LA, cuts cancer out of people's bones. But,
wow.
He takes about half of his time, and he's built hospitals in India and in Africa. And he travels down to very rural and poor areas in Mexico and does field surgeries. He really believes in giving back. And his sort of idea for Drops Fill Buckets, was that, instead of kind of giving money to these big organizations where you never really know where the money's going to go, you get groups of young professionals all over the country, all over the world, and people can decide on one thing where this much money will actually solve a problem. There was this area in India where 75% of the women that were going into child labor were dying on the way to the hospital because they had to walk. So he said, what if we were to buy an ambulance and 3 years supply of fuel for that? And so we found out how much that would cost. And we just had a bunch of fundraisers just to kind of cure that problem right there. And then you can kind of go around the country and people can have ideas. Hey, there's this dog shelter. Hey, there's something for, tier 1 special forces soldiers with PTSD. The suicide rates are off the chart. Get one issue at a time, try to take care of that one issue. So it's specific and it's focused, rather than you're just kind of throwing it into the sort of sea of charity.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah. My brother's an amazing guy. He's doing a lot more good for the world than I am. I'll tell you that much.
So are you, John.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You're also heavy into pit bull ownership, and your dad was a board member for the Humane Society. Did that impact your love of dogs and why you're a spokesperson for the Animal Farm Foundation?
Yeah, man. I think, my parents also, my parents had a huge influence on me, and they still do. They took in foster kids who were coming up in DC, and I really saw, that kids whose parents, abused them physically or sexually, kids whose parents were locked up, kids would come into the home, they're really in rough shape, and in a rough place. And I saw, especially with my mom, she always opened her heart to them. She never gave up on them, no matter what they did. She always, the power of loving a child and saying, hey, I got your back no matter what. I'm not all this bad behavior. I'm not going to judge you for that. I realize that that's just your way of expressing something that you don't really have the tools to express. There's so much power in that, and grace and beauty in that. And, I've really found for dogs, especially, pit bulls and fighting dogs in particular, I got no problem with, man, if, Kurt, you've been a fighter your whole life, like I love boxing. I always have, if two guys want to go in a ring and, have it out or work with each other, or even if you have something you got to get off your chest, I got no problem with that. But don't put something out there to fight in your place. Don't like, handle it yourself. And I think the dog fighting thing, it's just something that's really near and dear to my heart. And taking these dogs in and sort of bringing them back and bringing them through that journey, giving them love and seeing how far that they can come. It's just something that I think is, it gives me a huge amount of satisfaction. And I think I've really seen, with my dogs, I have pit bulls. I've always had pit bulls, and you walk down the street with your dog, and people cross the street. You know what I mean? And people say, "Hey, keep your pit bull away from my dog." But isn't he a dog too? And there's all this breed specific legislation where just in a community they'll just make a law that says, okay, no pit bulls can be at these apartment buildings, and these families have to give up their dogs, and there's no focus or time put into, well, is this an aggressive dog? Is this dog a problem? Like, who is this dog as an individual? Who is this family? What have they done to take care of this dog? And I get it that, these big dogs and sort of larger breed dogs, they're not for everybody. And I think with these kinds of dogs comes a certain level of responsibility. And I really believe that my dogs are ambassadors for the breed. I never want somebody to be afraid for the idea of intimidating somebody with your dog. There's nothing weaker or lamer to me, but I just think that these dogs really don't get a fair shake. And, if I can help with that, there's just something that I feel real connected to that breed, and I'll sing it on the mountain all day, man. Give those dogs a chance,
Well, Jon, listen, I can't.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.